Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Cade McNamara has transferred from Michigan to Iowa, and I'm going to break down whether I think Cade McNamara can help the Iowa offense or whether it's going to take more than him to make Iowa's offense better. Now, Cade McNamara, again, he was the quarterback for Michigan, but because of the fact J.J. McCarthy had more of an explosive offense. He could make the deep throws. He had the more of the it factor that Cade McNamara did not have. Cade McNamara was more of just a safe quarterback, a solid quarterback that can make all the underneath throws. He didn't turn the ball over a lot, but Michigan wanted more on offense, so Cade McNamara got benched, and now he is going over to Iowa, where he will presumably be the starting quarterback. And if you look at his stats at Michigan, he's had decent numbers. He redshirted his first season, and then in 2020, he played in 4 games, and he was 43 of 71 with 5 touchdowns and no picks. But in 2021, when he was the starter, he took Michigan to a 12-2 record, and he was 210 of 327, 64.2% completion percentage, 2,576 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And those are really good numbers. Obviously, the touchdowns are not super high for playing in 14 games. You would like to have more touchdowns than that, but that's also why Michigan benched him for J.J. McCarthy in 2022. He only started in 1 game in 2022 for Michigan when Jim Harbaugh was experimenting between the two quarterbacks, and he was 14 of 25 for 180 yards. And that kind of sums up Cade McNamara's story at Michigan. Again, a very solid quarterback, but was not super explosive, something that J.J. McCarthy can provide in the offense. He's a solid quarterback, but Cade McNamara is not an elite quarterback. But the key question is, can he help fix Iowa's offense? Because Iowa's offense has had some problems through the years. Since 2000, their offense has mostly been terrible. In 2000, you can see that their offense was toward the bottom of the FBS, 104 out of 116 teams. And Ken O'Keefe was the offensive coordinator at the time. The best offense that he had was in 2002, where their offense was the 13th best out of 117 FBS teams. And that's amazing. So Ken O'Keefe obviously had things going that year. He had decent seasons as well in 05 and 06 with the 22nd and 27th best offenses. But if you were to say for Iowa today, they would take 27, or they would definitely take the 13th best offense in the country, because Iowa since then has completely fallen apart on offense. And even during the Ken O'Keefe era at offensive coordinator, you can see the stats started to decline. After that 06 season, they did not even have a season where they were a top 50 offense again. They were 53rd in 2008, and that's not very good, but still better than what Iowa's done lately. But then from 2012 to 2016, Greg Davis was the offensive coordinator, and the best offense that he could muster was the 66 out of 128 offenses. And then you see Brian Ferentz, Kurt Ferentz's son, when he took over at offensive coordinator, the best offense that he could muster was in 2020 with the 88th best offense. And obviously in 2022, which is not shown right here, the offense was just as bad and basically at the bottom of all of the FBS. So no matter who's been the offensive coordinator, besides a few years in the Ken O'Keefe era, over the last 20 plus years, Iowa's offense has been terrible. And why is this? Because Iowa's had some decent quarterbacks. You look at Nathan Stanley from 2016 to 2019, he threw 68 touchdowns and 23 interceptions in his career, and he's second in school history with 8,297 passing yards. So he was a pretty good quarterback. Obviously, he's not really doing anything in the NFL, but he had a great career at Iowa, and they won a lot of games, but their offensive numbers were still poor. You had Drew Tate from 03 to 06, and yes, those were the seasons where Iowa's offense was better, and he threw 61 touchdowns and 34 interceptions and 8,292 yards. You had Ricky Stanzi as well, and you also had James Vandenberg and C.J. Beathard. Both those quarterbacks were pretty solid at Iowa. And Spencer Petras has even cracked the top 10 in Iowa history in passing yards, and he's got 24 touchdowns and 19 interceptions, which that's not very good. But the quarterbacks ahead of him have way better stats, but Iowa still on offense was bad. Now, why is this? Iowa's had pretty decent quarterbacks still, but their offense was not good compared to the rest of the country. And I think a big problem for that is because Iowa still runs an old offense. They run the ball on the ground. They do a lot of ground and pound, running the ball at the middle, a lot of tight ends, which Iowa's gotten a lot of tight ends and running backs to the NFL, and that's fantastic. But the offense in college football has changed. People do not do that anymore. Running the ball, you still do it, and you still have to value it. But a lot of people are spreading the ball out, throwing 40 and 50 times a game, or they have a mobile quarterback that helps the team run the football as long as he can throw. And Iowa's had a lot of quarterbacks, as you can see, that their numbers are poor in the running game. You look at C.J. Beathard. He was the best quarterback that Iowa had that could at least run a little bit. He had 10 rushing touchdowns and 429 rushing yards, but everybody else is basically in the negative. So I think that's part of the problem as well, is Iowa has a bunch of quarterbacks that can't run. Now, obviously, Cade McNamara does not run the football that much either. If you see his rushing stats, he had a couple of rushing touchdowns, but he's not a runner either. He's basically going to follow in line with all the other Iowa quarterbacks that they've had in the past, where he's not going to run that much. But is that completely the problem for Iowa, that they don't have a running quarterback? I don't think so. I just think Iowa needs to spread the ball out more. Because you look at wide receivers like Charlie Jones. Iowa had Charlie Jones, and he's a fantastic wide receiver, but he barely did anything at Iowa through the air because Iowa's offense is just so old school, where they run the ball more and get it to the tight ends, that they kind of don't look for their wide receivers enough. And he transferred to Purdue, and Purdue runs an air raid style offense. And you look at Purdue, they don't have a running quarterback that much in Aiden O'Connell. He can run a little bit, but he's not a runner. But he got the ball to Charlie Jones a lot, and Charlie Jones had 12 receiving touchdowns, and he had a fantastic season. And now he's getting a lot of recognition. So I think with Iowa, the change that has to be made is Brian Ferentz. Iowa needs to have an offensive coordinator that will open up the offense and allow Iowa to run their offense like a lot of other teams do, where they're able to pass the ball deep down the field if you've got the personnel. And I think Iowa can get players. That Iowa is capable of getting talent. They've shown that they can get really solid players, even like Charlie Jones, who's no longer at Iowa. If Iowa will open up the offense and start letting the ball spread around to their wide receivers more often than just the running backs and the tight ends, they can do a lot better. And Kirk Ferentz needs to do a better job at that. Kirk Ferentz needs to hire an offensive coordinator that will open up the offense, because even though Cade McNamara is a solid quarterback and he's put up solid numbers, he's not going to have any success at Iowa if Iowa gets a new offensive coordinator that keeps running the same style of offense that Iowa's had. They're going to just keep grounding and pounding and get it to the tight ends. The old school offense is not going to help Cade McNamara succeed and get to the NFL. And Iowa's continued to be stuck in the past on offense. And even though Iowa's defense is fantastic, they're never going to be an elite Big Ten team because of the fact that they just play too old school of an offense, and they're going to continue to struggle to get more than 8 wins. And Kirk Ferentz is a great coach, but he's going to have to get a coordinator that will allow his team to open up the offense, and he's got the quarterback that's capable enough to do it. Even if he's not an elite quarterback, Cade McNamara can succeed at Iowa, because you saw what he did at Michigan. Yes, Michigan has better players, but he took them to the playoff. Iowa can do some things next season with Cade McNamara, maybe even have a way better of a record than they did this year if he will just get a coordinator that will open up the offense, and they will be able to get players that will want to go to Iowa because of the fact that their offense is actually free to be able to play like other teams are playing, and you're going to be able to get better players. And I think Iowa will be just fine. But Kirk Ferentz is going to have to make that decision. He's going to have to get an offensive coordinator that will allow Cade McNamara to run a more spread offense and be able to do things. Don't abandon the running game completely. Don't abandon the tight ends. I'm not saying that, but you're going to have to open up the offense more, like even Illinois has done. You see what they're doing over there with Brett Bielema. They're playing a lot better because they're opening up more, but they're still giving the ball to Chase Brown a lot. So that's all Iowa has to do. You can continue to run the football. You continue to get it to the tight ends, but you're going to have to spread the ball around to the wide receivers more and let your quarterback be able to throw the ball all over the field instead of letting him just throw it on 3rd and long, and then it's so scripted. If Iowa does that and they allow Cade McNamara to be able to play like he did at Michigan, then I think Iowa will be just fine with Cade McNamara, and they will be a lot better on offense. But to answer the question, in my opinion, I think Cade McNamara will immediately help Iowa's offense. But for Iowa to get to where they want to be on offense, it's going to take a change at coordinator with a new philosophy for Iowa's offense to improve. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Cade McNamara can fix the Iowa offense by himself, or is it going to take a change in coordinator with a new philosophy as well for Iowa's offense to improve. And I will see you next time.